Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this edition of The Insight. I am Babla Jonathan. Many Cameroonians are suffering and even dying because of lack or inadequate healthcare delivery in the country, both in urban centers and remote areas. Many do not have access to healthcare services. Some are caught in the trap of healthcare services or infrastructural setbacks, financial constraints, and others in lack of information or better still, ignorance. And the Cameroon government has launched the Universal Health Coverage Initiative. Registration is ongoing on and offline for those who do not have access to information and communication technologies, ICT. The health officials have said that mobile registration teams will be deployed across the country. And of course, the question today is, how is this going to be the solution? How much of a solution is this to the health problems of the Cameroonians? How can it be best implemented to achieve the desired objectives, and how far can its implementation go to solve the health problems of Cameroonians? We'll be analyzing this initiative and other public health issues in the Republic of Cameroon and how the health of Cameroonians can be improved. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Our first guest today is Dr. Ahmed Foh. He's a public health consultant, botanist, member of the West African Botanic Council, Cameroon Chief Executive Officer of Green Wealth Education Research Foundation, an organization impacting Africa and promoting rural development through sustainable health management and life skills programs. Doctor, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babila.
Right. What is your appraisal of the Universal Health Coverage Initiative of the Cameroon government?
Mr. Babila, the Universal Health Coverage is one of the giant projects that had been put in place to make sure that the health of the population in each of the countries in the world is taken care of. And this is mainly focused on bringing health facilities and health benefits to the people, no matter where they are located, no matter who they are. That's bringing healthcare facilities to the people without any hardship and within a given time period, which can solve problems that individual populations are facing. So this will involve promoting health, carrying out preventive health programs. It will also involve treatments. It will also involve rehabilitations and palliative health care. So this, the Cameroon government has engaged to disseminate this information and implement this strategy in the health sector in Cameroon. We are praying that it go materialize and go successfully, because if it succeeds in some few years to come, we don't have cry of health issues in any rural or urban areas anymore.
As far as preventive and promotional healthcare services are concerned, all Cameroonians are eligible for free services. Now, when we talk about pregnant women, newborn babies of up to 42 days of age in the far north, Adamawa East regions, they have to pay the sum of 6,000 francs CFA per year. And for children from 0 to 5 years, consultation, notably consultation for malaria and of course malaria management, it is free for all Cameroonians across the country. We also have people living with HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and of course river blindness, who will also have free healthcare services. Dialysis patients will pay the sum of 15,000 francs CFA for a year for their services. But concerning dialysis patients, they are raising concerns about some health problems that emanate from their kidney failure situation, notably hypertension and of course diabetes and others, which are not considered in this universal healthcare coverage. Now, how much of a solution is this to the problem, to the health problems of Cameroonians?
Concerning the dialysis, those who may go in for dialysis, kidney dialysis, and have some complications, Maybe in the background they had other problems like diabetes, like high blood, or it comes in the course of treatment. I think we need to educate, first of all, the population very well. Sometimes people come for particular peculiar health problems, meanwhile they have others. And treating what they are brought may result or animate what they had in them. So we actually, to properly take care of this, we need, as you said, prevention. We need to do a lot of health education, health awareness program. Dialysis is becoming alarming in Cameroon today. If you go to all dialysis center, they are flourished with hundreds of people. What is the problem? Change of lifestyle. I've had complications with kidney. We are going to come to that. I think that if people are educated on preventive measures, how they can live with a healthy kidney, they live with their kidney healthy throughout their life, this will reduce some of this crowd at the dialysis centers. I think a lot has been done.
In the meantime,
as you said, a lot has been done, but we still need to emphasize, because it has not really covered the entire territory. So we need to go to those areas that have not been touched, and those areas that are not being accessible, we'll look for solutions, which will highlight some of the possible strategy to reach.
Exactly. Before now, kidney failure patients were paying at least 400,000 francs CFA per year when we combine all the dialysis sessions that they go to the hospital for. But now the cost has been reduced to 15,000 francs CFA. But they are asking that the other health problems that emanate from their kidney failure situation, notably hypertension, diabetes, and others, should be taken into consideration in this health coverage. Now, when we look at this initiative, the authorities are saying that registration is done on and offline, notably on the internet with the internet network and everything, even on mobile phones, and with registration are already going on the website of Cameroon health coverage. Yeah, I think so. And so, but another problem here is the issue of people not having access to information and communication technologies, internet, mobile phones, and all the gadgets that go with it, especially in some of the remote areas, many of the remote areas in Cameroon today. And the health officials are saying that mobile teams will be deployed across the country. How far? How much emphasis should be laid on this to be able to make sure that everybody is on board, everybody have access to this initiative?
Okay. I think this is a very important question, Mr. Babila, because actually much has been done, but much work is still to be done. Because the coverage, if we want to get proper coverage of the various health districts and health centers and hospitals in the country, is very simple. Each region has district hospitals, has regional hospitals, then before we have health centers. These statistics can always be get at the regional delegation of public health. When they get this, the health team, there are other areas that don't have even those health centers, they can be created. And then the health team that has to mobilize must have the master of the geography and the topography of the area and how they can access the area. And probably those who have to team of workers that have to access most of these areas. We know most Cameroon is not really linked. Urban towns are very linked, but rural areas are not linked. So they need to be versed about the environment. That's some of the challenges they will be having. And then but to get the statistics of the health centers and health districts is very simple, very easy to get to them. And then maybe the minister may be looking forward to add more of those centers so that we can meet up with this universal health coverage. And one of the most important things that we need to take into consideration when we are doing this, the route network. Mr. Babila, I have seen cases where somebody is sick and then who has lost weight, has no energy, cannot eat, has not been eating for some days, for some weeks, and then is carried on a bike or the hilly topography. You can imagine this is going to aggravate the situation. They may reach the hospital when he's already a corpse. The road network is bad. Another thing, if we cannot meet up constructing this road network, we need to carry out what we call health awareness program. Let people know exactly when to take citations to hospital. Because of most of the cases we are facing today, it only comes when it is chronic, when it has been delayed. And people living in those rural area sometimes they take alternatives. They say, let's try, since it will be costly to carry the patient somewhere. And by the time they're doing so, it may be too late. And some of the challenges too is that that we have in the health sector, that I would like that the universal health coverage that the government is trying to enact and implement in Cameroon is very important. We can introduce, they're already introducing the IT communication, but specialist doctors, people could have specialist doctors consult online on their phones, maybe take appointments with doctors on their phone. Some are already doing, but when 10% out of 100% is no percent. So I think doing this, bringing this technology to get to the doctors, I should be able to look in my phone and access the closest doctor near to me and be able to give an information or consult through that doctor before I even displace from where I'm going to consult or to meet the doctor. This is one of the things we can bring in technology to facilitate. If we can remember, just 2 years ago, a student of an engineering science university in Rwanda came out with a drone. And the purpose of the drone, he came out with a drone to distribute blood in the various hospitals in Rwanda. I think this is something to appreciate, is what appreciation. We could still do this in Cameroon. Somebody is running short of blood somewhere, but there's no way to get to blood. So this young man came out with a drone that distributes blood. It doesn't need anybody. The drone goes itself with the blood bank and is sharing in the hospital. I think this is something appreciable. We should also look into that.
Right, and the Cameroon Health Coverage website is open, and the registration for the universal health coverage is ongoing.
Yeah.
And what you need to get registered are the following documents: the national identity card, your birth certificate, residence permit, your passport or driving license. These are the documents that you need. Any of these documents will do. And if you don't have an identification document, you can enroll with a guarantor's document, and to benefit from quality essential health care and services, you must register to do so. And of course, you register and pay the social contributions if applicable. That is, if the section for which you're registering, if it's for if you're a kidney failure patient and you're registering, you need to pay 15,000 francs CFA. You're a pregnant woman, or you want to register a child of between 0 to 42 days old, you need to pay 6,000 francs CFA. And for the others, it is free, as I indicated earlier. Now, last week, the National Daily Cameroon Tribune was saying that medical error-related deaths must stop in Cameroon. This is because it is becoming recurrent. Children, adults dying as a result of medical errors. And apart from medical errors, there are lots of shortcomings in the healthcare delivery in the Cameroon. Absence of health facilities in some of the areas, remote areas, inadequate equipment, and even specialists, high cost of treatment. What is your analysis of the healthcare delivery situation of Cameroon today?
Well, Mr. Babila, I think the healthcare delivery services in Cameroon, we can appreciate, but they still have a lot to do. There is a need. If you look, their health centers have been constructed. Their health districts, hospitals, that still run short of workers. I think we need more healthcare providers. That's one of the challenges we are having today. We need more healthcare providers. Coming to the point of patients dying due to maybe medical errors, there is something which is becoming a phenomenon in Cameroon, and which is too bad. Public hospitals, which are meant for the mass, the population, those who work in these public hospitals are not mind-focused, because some of them run their own clinics or their own hospitals. And this is something to be discouraged. So when they come to the public hospitals, bear with me, Mr. Babila, some will refer you that, no, if you cannot treat this here, meet me, I can do this. And then they are not focused actually where they are supposed to meet the masses. They want to get the patients out of the way they are supposed to be to take them to their own clinic. This leads to negligence. They don't concentrate in what they are doing. And one of the things too, there is a poor communication. In all health sectors in Cameroon, there's a poor communication network between the patient and the healthcare provider. the communication is not always the best. The patients are abandoned. Imagine somebody comes who may be in a potential state of partial stroke and is not attended to. This is very dangerous. Or somebody comes which is in an emergency case, maybe it's a cardiac problem, and it's neglected. Sometimes you reach the hospital, you talk, nobody responds to you. If this communication is not there,
and when a response comes, sometimes it is violent,
it's harsh or violent, or you should persevere. Don't you see people? We know, Mr. Babidi, from my consultations when I come across patients, I know that one of the first treatment is your interaction with the patient. When you give the patient a cool head and give the patient a hope that this situation can be handled, in your presence with that medication, the patient start recovering. You see recovering start. You see, I'm feeling more comfortable than I came here. But when it is abandoned, what comes to the mind of the patient and the caretakers of the patient is as if the case cannot be handled. And this is negligent. We cannot mention that we have seen so many cases. I want to cite one good example for those who are getting. It is always good that in a family sector, members should know their health status. I'll give one typical example like diabetes. Whether type 1 or type 2 diabetes, anybody who is diabetic and who is sick and who happens to go to the hospital should also let the health care providers know he is diabetic. Even not by showing the medical record, but even by telling them. They will still do another control test. The reason being that if they have to administer some drips or some other medication that contain glucose, it becomes complicated. That's why sometimes it was published that many people die of diabetic-related complication, not the diabetes itself. So one of the complications is receiving glucose on glucose. You see, the patient cannot survive. It's not a matter of leaving the hospital. The patient may not leave the hospital. So these things, people need to be aware. That's why we are carrying some seminars now to educate people. Some countries are designing an ID card, a health identity card, which means that if I'm sick and I cannot talk, and I go to the hospital, they look at my health biography. They know I'm diabetic, I'm hypertensive, I have cancer, I have this. All the analysis is analyzed. Then the doctors now know where to start. Take, for example, in case of an accident, the patient cannot talk, and the patient is allergic or is prone to some complications. Now, some well-structured country, they just remove the card. But with us here, as they take you there, they do what they can do. But we are saying the case where we go with the patient to the hospital, the doctors attending to the hospital, to the patient must be well informed.
The patient is conscious.
The patient is conscious. The patient himself can talk. As you see like this, I'm this. And I'm allergic to this. You can give some of those results. We may not waste time going to carry out a lab test for those things.
Administering drips, for example, containing glucose.
We need to know the sugar situation of the patient.
Sugar level of about 3, 4 could be death.
It could lead to death. We have seen it. It has resulted to death in many circumstances. So you see, this is another part can be attributed to negligence. Negligence, and then I cannot say really medical errors because the person doing it never knew. You are complicated. Your health is your personal issue. You are the one to give your health report to the healthcare provider. You are the one to ask the healthcare provider what you need to live healthy. Meanwhile, the healthcare provider, as a duty to, has to educate the patient. Right. As you finish with this, don't go back to this, don't go back to this, so that you stay healthy. I consulted a patient and said, no, you can say anything, but alcohol, I cannot stop. I said, okay, if you don't want to leave alcohol, he said, alcohol, I can reduce the bottles, but I cannot stop. I said, okay, if you don't want to leave the alcohol, then hypertension will also leave you. You have a choice.
What about the infrastructural setbacks? Many of our hospitals and health facilities or health centers are poorly equipped in terms of medical equipment and even in terms of personnel.
Yes, exactly. That's one of the highest crises we have today. If you look at the regional level, at least all regional hospitals are well equipped. But from the regional hospital, as you go to the other district hospitals, they are not well equipped. And the challenges we have here is that there are some particular laboratory tests that have to be carried like an emergency. And the way the patient may be located, they have to go for days. I give you a good example. If somebody shows all the signs and symptoms of stroke, we may not conclude. The person has to go for CT scan A CT scan is to analyze the nature of the brain and the impact of the stroke on the body. This is done, if you look at any region, maybe it will be done only in one hospital. What the question now is, the machine is very limited. And so most of the time, and since with the expensive nature of the CT scan test, some patients prefer to conclude that it's stroke, and then they start taking medications. Meanwhile, stroke is not one type. We have ischemic stroke, that is blockage of blood vessels by cholesterol. We have hemorrhagic stroke, which is puncture of blood vessel. Then we have subacute ischemic stroke, which the patient may still be conscious, but is paralyzed. So these things, when you start taking medication without diagnosis, it ends up, we are already, from my consultation, I'm already seeing that stroke is one of the things that is ravaging the population of Cameroon, especially people between 40 and 60 years. We need to educate them on their lifestyle. Our grandparents never knew this. People who existed before, the stroke was not common as this. It's our lifestyle have brought things into our body that the body does not want.
Let me just step back a little bit on something which you mentioned, which is very important today, giving hope to the patients who come to the health facilities. There is a kind of a contradictory or paradoxical situation in some health facilities, especially those in the urban areas today. Just at the entrance or close to the entrance of health facilities, you have people selling caskets, selling coffins, just close to the entrance to the hospital. Normally where the patient will normally pass to go to the hospital. And then you have the mortuary just around, not far from that. When a patient comes to the hospital and he begins to see all these things, these images,
it's traumatized. It traumatizes the patient. I think this should be discouraged. Mortuary, okay, because you may go to the hospital, you will not see the mortuary unless you are sure, unless you read the label. But the coffins that are sold at the entrance of the hospital, sincerely, they are discouraging. Because when a patient comes and see coffins, marketing everywhere, what may come to the mind of the patient is that it means anybody who enters here lives as a corpse. You go in alive, or you go in on their legs, you come out in a coffin. You know, this psychological view can affect the health of a patient. We are not refusing coffin vendors not to sell their coffins, but it should not be at the entrance of the hospitals. I think if I had a voice, I would say that the government should discourage that. They should sell it. They can sell it around the hospital, but not when an ambulance is coming with a patient on an emergency. The patient is removed from the car, and the first thing the patient sees is a coffin. You see, this is demoralized the patient. I think that that should be discouraged. With mortuary, there's no problem.
All right. Now, before we go to the newsstands to see what the newspapers reported this week, let's talk about this issue, this perspective of the issue. That is the solution side of it. What are some of the quick solutions that can be implemented in the short and long term to improve healthcare delivery in Cameroon and the health of Cameroonians?
The first thing, which is primordial, is health education. If the government can intensify carrying out workshops on health in urban and rural centers, let people actually educate people on risk factors, educate people on what is bringing these complications, because it saves nothing. It serves no purpose. Giving medication to a patient today, he recovers and pick the same problem tomorrow. So health education is primordial. And then health counseling is very primordial to patient. Another important aspect too, we need specialist doctors. Because when you go to most hospitals today, they say they are generalists. It's difficult to have specialist doctors in many of our hospitals. We need them because there are cases they can handle. There's men only for them. We need this. We need them to do this. And then we also have the lack of healthcare providers, as I told you. We need more healthcare providers. I think that the government should recruit massively. You can take people from maybe medical schools, nursing training schools, and then you still reform them. You still train them. And then they build up a team of healthcare providers, and you send them to the very hospital. Some are even ready to work, even with just small motivations. And then there is a need to create more healthcare centers. If you go to a division and you have only a district hospital and there are no health centers, it becomes very, very complicated. You see, because movement first of all is difficult. So creating more centers, bringing more workers could save also the patient. And I want to think that if this start happening in Cameroon tomorrow, you will discover that many people are running from public hospitals. Why are they running for? Why are they running for? They are running because they know their attention, their cry may not be heard. And they are going to an individual who will have time to attend to them. If the people working in the public hospitals and public health centers, they start receiving patients and have time for patient and talk to the patient before administering them in the hospital, and after they have been discharged from the hospital, they still give some counseling. Nobody will run the public hospitals. They are running because it seems as if when you go there, you are abandoned on their own. So I think the healthcare providers should be conscious of the fact that they are there because of the patients, and they should have good communication with the patient and give the patient a good report, a good bilan about their health.
All right, let's go to the newsstands now, and we're going to take a look at what the newspapers reported this week in Cameroon. The press review with Immaculate Fogwe.
The Post-Weekender examines the havoc caused by the rainstorm in the town of Boya. The paper says residents are still counting their losses. The Post is concerned about fuel scarcity in Cameroon, which is imminent as government cracks down on roadside vendors. The Sun examines demolition exercises in the town of Boya. The paper says the Boya Council dismisses accusations of discrimination. The Garden Post exclaims, Northwest Governor accuses funds of fortifying separatist fighters. Newswatch is concerned about the political succession in Cameroon. The paper says if Chief Mokete, Sultan Nabil Njoya could take over the throne, why not Frank Biya? Municipal Update says bishops express delight as peace is fast returning to the northwest and southwest regions. The observation was made during the opening of the 48th plenary session of the National Episcopal Conference of Cameroon in Yaoundé. On the front page of the Herald Tribune, the paper spots the new dynamics adopted to boost reconstruction plan in the northwest and southwest regions. As reported by the Garden Post, as Third Senate legislature begins, Senator Mfo Tabentando pledges to work for the development of the southwest region. Municipal Updates, making real power devolution to regional and local authorities, equation Third Senate legislature must be solved. The Advocate, presidential plan for the reconstruction of the development of the southwest and northwest regions. Development partners lauded, others appealed to redeem pledges. Another edition of the Garden Post exclaims, after receiving attributes, intrigues, backstabbing, lobbying, galore as new Senate Bureau in view. The Horizon reports, after Chile bond issue receptions, Cameroon raises interest rates to attract investors.
Thank you, Immaculate Fogwe, for the press review. I said earlier, registration for the universal health coverage in Cameroon is ongoing on and offline, and for those who do not have access to information and communication technologies, ICTs, the mobile teams will be coming to you as will be deployed by the health officials, and the health officials are urging all to welcome the mobile teams and ensure that you keep your receipt so that you can collect your universal health coverage card at the indicated location when the time comes. Now, on the other side, there is African traditional medicine and organic medicine. What is the difference between the two?
Thank you very much, Mr. Babila. There is a slight difference between organic or botanical medication and the African traditional medicine. I will summarize it in a simple term so that we can know. The botanical or organic medications are medication produced and whose products are passed through a laboratory, which means have been tested. Plant medication, recycling plants, either the roots or the leaves or the stems or whatsoever part of the plant that is medicinal, recycling it and using it raw, either in powder form or cooking and drinking, but has passed through a lab to see the composition of these plants, the leaves of the plants, the roots, their composition, and the importance of the composition to the health of an individual. This is called organic medication. I'll give you one good example. In organic medication, we know arthritis, rheumatism, and joint pains are related to calcium. In most cases, when the other feet are hot, is related to calcium deficiency. Now, in organic medication, we could look at food that has a good flourish of calcium. You have like white beans. White beans could be processed. We have like bitter leaf, which has a lot of calcium. And then we have eggshell, which has a lot of calcium. I think this is very, very important. While traditional medication is simply, may be still using plants herbs, may use other things which are traditionally to heal. It works. But they have other aspect in it, which is not learned in the classroom. Botanical medication, you must go to university. You must spend 8, 10, 12 years to do research on botany. But traditional medication, you could inherit. And then it works. I give you one good example. The healing, what we call bone settlers. When somebody has a fracture, the bones are joined up. And then you see somebody whose bones was scattered is joined within 1 month. It is beyond scientific explanation, this traditional medication. There are so many examples of that works. They are traditional. So those who practice this and even give herbs, we call them traditional practitioners.
Right. So how important is botanic medicine or organic medicine to efforts to improve, as efforts get towards improving the health situation of Cameroonians?
I think that if
one other persons,
yes, I think that if we know that God created the planet and created plants and created food within the plants, our food is our medication. If people are to know the composition of plants and the importance and the impact of this composition to our health, it will be very good. So one of the things which is good in botanical medication is that somebody may come up to you thinking you will write a series of conventional medication, and then you get his crisis. For example, as I was saying, somebody with arthritis and rheumatism, I can write a series of calcium food, and the patient consume little or no side effects. The person consume as food. For 1-2 weeks, you see an improvement. Somebody can come to you with a sugar problem, diabetic situation. I look at food rich in magnesium, because magnesium, apart from the pancreas secreting insulin, magnesium also helps to oxidize sugar. I look at food rich in magnesium, I prescribe those food, like bitter leaf, like aloe vera. Those are good rich magnesium sources that will help neutralize. The bitterness in each food is magnesium. So when we carry out tests and discover the composition of these essential elements, the way the plants that contains it must, we prescribe it to patients suffering from some complications. And you may not necessarily need to process it to give to them. You can tell them to process them themselves.
Now, unfortunately, the eating habits of many seems to be drifting far away from these very important ingredients that could ensure good health to all persons. We seem to be eating just the wrong things.
That's exactly the problem we are facing in this generation. I call it an artificial generation, because we don't want to go back to history. If we are to go back to history, we are going to eat what our grandparents ate before. They live more healthier, they live more longer than us. There was no diabetes, no cancer. They were more natural. But today, our lifestyle has changed. And sometimes we engage in things thinking it's a pride, but it kills us tomorrow. Why should you buy vegetable from a supermarket? Why should you buy meat from a supermarket? This is my point of view. I prefer to buy fish caught in Cameroon, in Limbe, in Yupi, in Bambalang. I consume it because I know this fish has eaten natural ingredients instead of importing fish that I don't know what have been used to feed the fish. You see, most people think imported things, not most people, most black people. They think maybe things that are imported, they are more important than things that are around them. This is fault. It doesn't work like that. What we have around us is more than those things packaged in the containers. I think I will take another day to analyze to people that when in the subsequent program, if I'm privileged to be invited again, we're going to talk about compare food, imported food, with naturally cultivated food in our own soil. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages of importing some of this food? We're going to talk on that. Maybe we are privileged sometimes.
But before we go, what are the advantages of eating more of our local meals here? Corn fufu and vegetable, achu, plantains, not the plantains that have been cultivated with chemicals. Our local foods, koki in the west region,
Yes.
sanga in the center region, and all those our local meals.
Yeah. This is the best meals we could have consumed. As I am saying that we have been brainwashed. We think that our own things are not important. Mr. Babila, when people used to eat fufu corn and jama for 30 good days, they were very strong people. Very strong people. Good footballers. They had no fracture. They ate fufu corn jama for 30 days. 1 month, they ate it. 24/7. They are fufu corn and jama. They were healthy. But today we are bringing in jama from a source which we don't know.
A good Balinyonga indigen will agree very much with what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if we are eating water fufu and arrow and those things, they are not bad. They are good because they are. Although we are facing some challenges today, where people are using a lot of chemicalized farming is going on today, where people use fertilizers, and we're going to talk about those impact on fertilizer because some of these health complications are coming from overuse of fertilizers in farms. And so we cannot dictate which crops are being cultivated with or without fertilizer. It becomes a challenge. But living naturally, I want anybody to take this. If you want to live healthy, go more natural than artificial. And then control your therapy. If you weigh more than 70, 6 p.m., close your meals. Don't eat after 6 p.m. Late night feeding is a complication. Most people are crying today of gastritis. Gastritis is coming from late night feeding. So late night feeding has a lot of, when I say late night, it's not eating midnight, eating and sleeping before 4 hours. This is what we call late night. Because anything you eat after 4 hours maximum, it is digested, absorbed, and assimilated in the gastrointestinal tract. Nothing left. But when you eat and go and lie down, the acid in the food increases acid in the stomach. It can lead to acid reflux. It leads to gastritis. The fat in the food accumulates in the stomach and causes stomach fat, which has complications. And then the high blood comes up, diabetes comes up, all these complications. If you stop eating late in the night or you stop your meals by 6 p.m. for good 1 month, you are going to call me to appreciate this. You become most of the hair complications have gone by themselves.
All right, but if you're compelled by some circumstances to eat after 6 p.m. or late in the night, you must stay up for at least 4 hours, maybe do some exercises before you go to bed. Is that advisable?
Yeah, it is not necessarily exercise. If you happen to eat late in the night once in a while, it may not be a problem. But if it becomes a routine, that's where it becomes a problem.
If you're a worker and you're coming back home only,
if your nature of
8,
work
9,
does not permit you to eat earlier, you can now make sure that when you eat, you pass some hours up and you drink a lot of water, so that to facilitate digestion. You take a lot of water, you stay up for some time to make sure that your tummy is a bit down before you go to bed.
What about eating things like cucumber?
Cucumber is very good. It's very nutritious. It has about 14 health benefits. I think we can analyze that. Fertility and things like that.
We'll definitely have another opportunity to talk more on those very important issues. Dr. Ahmed Fo, public health consultant, botanist, member of the West African Botanic Council, and Cameroon Chief Executive Officer of Green World Education Research Foundation. Thank you so much for your time.
I should be the one. Thank you, Mr. Babila. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us today. Thank you for staying with us. It is often said that cleanliness is next to godliness, and this reflects the importance of cleanliness. The state of our living and even working environments has an important part to play in our health. The hygienic state of several parts of towns, cities, and villages, homes, and enterprises in Cameroon today are so deplorable and favorable for the development of illnesses like cholera, malaria, and others. And cholera outbreaks have killed several persons in the central region, littoral region, south west region, and other parts of the country recently. And the most recent case is that of Yaoundé, the political capital of the Republic of Cameroon. Now, what to do about this issue, this question of the cleanliness of our living and working environments? This is what we're going to be discussing with our second guest today. Venlan Tazo Teke is a public hygiene and sanitation expert, general manager of Venta Investment Company Limited, offering public hygiene services, consultancy, research and development, and other services. Venta Tazo, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Ravina.
When you look at the state of our neighborhoods today, both in cities, towns, and villages, especially the marshy areas, the remote areas, with a lot of hygienic problems, what's your take on what you see around these areas?
What we can just say about that is the fact that it has a direct repercussion on the health of the Cameroonians and the world at large, and it affects the ecosystem, and this has a direct impact on the health of Cameroonians, which is a primordial thing. But to every problem there's a solution, and I think the problem is a complex one, but we have the possibility of getting this through by involving everybody, and there's a solution to this. And the fact that the environment is what it is and what we see is what some of us have been deploring and crying, working over, doing research, doing publications, and actually training technicians to see how they can contribute to this. We can only say that we have to put our hands, all of us, on deck to see how we can push this through.
Now, from your analysis, from your findings, where is the problem? What explains the fact that many Cameroonians seem to be living very comfortably with rats in their homes, cockroaches everywhere, geckos everywhere, trash littering around the neighborhoods, stagnant water just everywhere, and people seem to be living comfortably in those areas? Is it a problem of ignorance, or, like we often say in Cameroon, what can we do?
The problem of waste management, like I said in one of my exposés and things outing with you in particular in this same platform, is a global problem. It's not only in Cameroon. And I'll first of all start by saying that it is a mentality change problem, which is something that can still be managed. But in Cameroon in particular, the problem is the way the perception of the impact that this attitude, behavior, living with rats, mosquitoes, insects, gold geckos, rats, and all those things around the environment, the perception that we have. Another issue is the standard of living of Cameroonians, because somebody will tell you it is not yet dangerous for me to live with a rat because he does not see directly how the rat kills him. But if you tell somebody there is a snake here, the way they will run, and all of us will have to run behind it. So the comparison between a snake and a cockroach and a mosquito is a perception, and the gravity of the impact that this may cause on the human life. But they don't know that the highest killer in our days today is not the venom of a snake, but the bite of a mosquito, which goes a long way to eliminate children, and it kills more than even HIV/AIDS, and the statistics are there glaring on the World Organization pages, and the cockroaches are there. So we have rats that when they eat even the cables of electricity, we have fire breaks that comes up and brings down a whole building and can consume maybe even millions or billions of somebody who kept in their house, and maybe consume a shop. And you cannot interpret the impact of a small rat that has just eaten a cable, and when the cables touch and it sparks and brings fire. So it is a problem of perception.
The world geckos
The
that
world
pass their tongues on
yes,
kitchen
that
utensils.
is kitchen utensils, and I usually explain the impact of the world gecko on the life of an individual, because when you use a toothbrush, most of the time we just put our toothbrush on some part of the wall, and our toothbrush usually leans on the wall, either in the bathroom or in certain places of our houses, and the world gecko stays in the house and lives behind the pictures that we lean on the walls, even in our ceilings. In the night, they come out and use their tongue to lick the toothbrush that we usually use, because it has this fluoride that the toothpaste that we use, it is sweet. So when the tongue passes over our toothbrushes in the night, we get up in the morning, we take them, we just brush our teeth. We don't know what that venom or the saliva of this world gecko has on the impact of our life at long term. And that's why you see some children over the years will develop fainting fit, and they start attributing it to witchcraft and all whatnot. But those are just the combination of the poor hygienic environments that we find ourselves in, that when those things happen, and since we cannot directly link, if the world gecko was to lick the toothbrush of somebody, he brushes his mouth in the morning and the person collapses there on the spot, they'll start finding out what is happening. But since it is an insidious and a long process action, we neglect it, and before we discover it, the impact and the repercussions of this on human health is minimized. So what we just wish to say here is that, one, it is a problem of perception. Two, it is a problem of the standard of living, poverty, because if you see where most of the population to live, it is not in a clean environment. Another thing is the public policy that has been put in place, because we need to know very clearly that public health is a responsibility of the state, to put the Cameroonians, to put the population in good health, and the strategies that they put in place to ensure that the waste that is being produced by the population is well managed is equally part of their responsibility. When I was just coming down here, I saw a lot of garbage that was removed from the gutters and put on the streets to drain the gutters to permit water to pass, considering that this rainy season coming up in a town like Douala. But those garbages are still on the street waiting for Hizakam to come and carry. And we understand how Hizakam has a relationship too with the state. And we believe very well that if the public policy, sensitization, the Cameroonians with the way they live, all these strategies are put in place, I believe that the Cameroonian population or the perception of every individual will be changed, and things will be better, so that we live a better life.
All right. Now, some years ago, we used to see council workers visiting neighborhoods. We saw that recently when there was a cholera outbreak in Limbe. We saw some council workers going around telling people to make sure that their toilets are in good hygienic conditions, or they will be broken and things like that. And after that, we haven't seen those council workers on the field anymore. Toilets in our neighborhoods, sometimes the trash, the septic tank is destroyed somewhere, and the water is oozing out of the septic tank to the road, to the neighbor's house, and things like that around. And there's practically little or nothing that is done about that.
Let me shock you to tell you, Mr. Babila, that it is not only that there will be breakages on the septic tanks for it to ooze out before you have this environmental pollution in that domain. They are actually Cameroonians who don't have septic tanks, and they wait when it is raining for them to open their septic tank and allow their waste to go into the gutters deliberately. And if you go to New Bell here, you go to places like Boya, you go to other towns, you see very clearly that people have that mentality of that waste is not poisonous. And most of the time, we too Cameroonians, we believe that if our mothers in those days, they used to go to the farm, they eat without washing their hands, they didn't die. Today, we will not die too. My brother and sister, I wish to tell Cameroonians that today, public hygiene, cleanliness is the highest thing that you can consider. COVID came to us and made us to start putting cans on the streets to tell people to start washing hands. If we can just practice public hygiene or personal hygiene, you prevent illnesses for more than 90%. You start with the water that you drink, you start with the way you dress, you start with your environment, what you eat, and you start with the cleanliness around your house, your environment, and so on and so forth. So what we just wish to say here is that it is true what you are saying. In those days we used to have sanitary workers that come from the councils. They investigate, they ensure, inspect, and validate the type of toilet that every home around that vicinity has to actually be using. Because let us not deny the fact that there are some homes, or there were some homes, and there are still some homes in Cameroon today that don't have toilets. They go and defecate into the natural environment, into the bush, and then they come back, and that's how they live. And you know, when you defecate into the open air, the housefly goes there, creates the maggots, and they do whatever dancing that they dance on it. And then the food that is kept open, when they come to, they do the dancing on the food, and when the children come back, they take this food and eat. It is a direct infection that the children will have. So there are organizations that, international organizations, that are actually be sensitizing against us not having toilets that are of that nature. And others, when you even create the toilet that are pit toilet, the fact that it has it's a whole hygienic package. And what I would just want to say is that Cameroonians need to know that if you want to live a good life, prevention is better than cure. We are talking about a universal health package for all Cameroonians. That is at the level of treatment where you're already sick. In order to avoid even getting sick, it is the easiest and the cheapest thing to do. And that is where public hygiene and sanitation comes in.
All right, we want to talk more about what should be done about this question, about this issue of keeping our environments clean, what we need to seek from people, specialists like you and other people who are in this sector in a short while. Time for us to have some interviews of the week.
We really need peace in Southwest and Northwest, because presently now we are tired, all of us, for what is happening or what has been happening in our two region. So I think what we need is peace. It's peaceful, and we have prayed very hard, not today, since the beginning of the fasting. So we commit the two regions in prayer.
I'm from the Northwest region, precisely from Kumu, Bui division. I'm an IDP. I have 4 kids, twins and 2 other kids. They are in school. 3 of them, they are in school. So us in the family, we have tried and gathered in the family compound, so we celebrate it as a family. So the unity should reign. Wish we could go back, but things are not really that good. So we are pleading on the government. We are pleading on the government to do something back in the Northwest and the Southwest region, so that we can all return back home. Though things here are a bit harder for us, we are just managing. The house rents are expensive. We are managing with food. Transportation is difficult. Roads too are bad.
Let us be united beyond that message of peace. We continue with our strives, looking for peace. We continue to love one another, Christians and Muslims alike, and we continue to live like brothers and sisters. It's very important.
The Imam gave us the importance of living together and take the example of the other countries like Rwanda and all the rest, how the division brought a lot of killing there. So he put much emphasize too much on how we should live together. And he's telling us living together does not mean that you have blood relationship or family relationship or a religious relationship or tribe. Living together is we are the son of Adam, all descended from one grandfather. No matter who is on this earth, we are from one grandfather, and we should live with one family.
Peace, peace, peace. Because you know, we are one brother in our community. We are elite. We get a lot of children. Sometimes elites, we don't happy with our president. Some of them, but it's our father. Same like tomorrow, if he's not there, the other can take the place. And it's been can be our father also. So what I going to talk for all my brothers, some of them from the north or southwest region, they try to leave the end, left against the fight, and try to discuss, because the life is very important for us.
I think these girls or these women are in distress. So they don't have the means to take care of their children, and they think that maybe the best solution is to get rid of them. Most of the time, whether in court or in family settings, in community settings, the blame is on women. Yeah, they are not even listened to. So they will be asked, what do you first go there to do? What did you first? Why did you even go there to do? So now you are coming to complain. So these are social happenings that are a kind of forging the mind of these women to say no. There's no need carrying these children. Some of these women are behaving like that because of deception. They are abandoned by the authors of their pregnancy, and they feel frustrated. They feel frustrated that the whole story started with two people, and now it's ending with one person. So it's kind of frustration. This is not explaining why they are doing that. It's not a good reason for throwing the baby away, but at least these are some of the things that are happening in those women's mind. Why is it first that people cannot have the basic necessity? The state should make sure that there are possibilities for each and every one. We need to have stronger sensitization so that these women know that there is this possibility of handing over their children to this ministry so that they are taken care of. There is a possibility for the ministry taking the child and hosting the child with an orphanage. And when times come that the woman is able to take care of the children, she can come and get the children back.
We know that the third term is the shortest term in the whole academic year. So, each and every one of you, you are called to use the 1 month of classes that we have for your own good. We will not want to have any absenteeism, and make sure you use the time that is allocated for this term the way you are supposed to do. There will be no promotion if you don't have at least 10 as average.
If it happens that a student has 9.99, it is not 10. As far as I'm concerned, a student should be promoted at the average of 10. The students, the Cameroon of tomorrow, our youngsters should be those who merit what is given to them. The certificate they have should be on merit. It shouldn't be a certificate that is mediocre. We are training them not only to remain in Cameroon, they can go outside. They become our ambassadors out of the country.
This is the last turn to challenge myself and do better than the last term. I'm ready to challenge myself, to correct my errors, to do better than the last time, and then to pass my exam.
When they choose joint property, it means that all the things they buy to use in their marital life belongs to both of them. Meaning, therefore, that at the end, if they want to dissolve that marriage or they want to separate, the court equally has to render a judgment dividing that property between the two of them. And so, it is mostly done on what we can see, what we can evaluate. For example, plots, houses, vehicles. In the civil law jurisdiction, it is regulated by the civil code, and while in the common law jurisdiction, it is regulated by the Matrimonial Causes Act of 1973. If parties choose to divorce, it is the responsibility of the court to identify the properties and divide it equally between them. You see that even if a woman does not work, the time she spends at home, she's taking care of the children, she's taking care of the man, she's taking care of everything that makes the man happy to go and work. So she contributes. And that effort is quantified as her own contribution in the acquiring of that asset. It is a wrong thing to think that since a woman does not work, she has no right, she has no claim to properties that were acquired. It is wrong. So, usually it is advised that when you are getting married, you do an inventory of the things you have before marriage, so that at the time, in case there is a separation or divorce, they can easily identify those properties that were acquired within the period of the marriage. A woman might decide to go and buy a land in the name of her mother, her brother, or the husband too might do same. But you see, the risk that they run is that when you put those properties in the names of other people, it becomes their property in the eyes of the law.
We are already started. You can go now online, you register. It is already started. You can share the application in the Play Store, Cameroon Health Coverage, and you go to the www.csu.minsante.com to register yourself. It is Cameroon Health Coverage application. When you take this application in your phone, you can register even you are offline. For the villages, we have a mobile strategy, and we have the staff who went to the village to register the population.
Every time before I buy a product, especially like yogurt, like anyway, everything that's inside a bottle, I need to check the date, if the date is still correct. If it's not correct, I need to take it back to the seller if I didn't check while buying the product. But most of the time, I used to check. So everybody must do that.
Those were interviews of the week. Thank you for staying with us. Venlan Tazo, take care. Before we continue with our discussion, you listen to Sylvie Jacqueline Dokmo, a human rights advocate and president of Women's International League for Peace and Freedom International, talking about the rising infanticide in Cameroon, children that are killed, especially by their mothers, because they are not wanted or for other reasons. And she highlighted a point about men, talking about men who are qualified as irresponsible, who put women in the family way and abandon them and reject the pregnancy and put them in a kind of a difficult situation at a tight corner, compelling them to do some, to carry out some acts that are not very good, that are not good at all, like killing the baby or throwing the baby away. What do you think about this?
It's a sad situation to imagine that somebody human who was equally carried by another woman called the mother for 9 months, gives you all the care and the support that you need. You grow up to be an adult, and nature rotates and then gives you an opportunity to play your own role, to create, to procreate, and you decide to do it that way under the pretext of the fact that the conditions of the environment are seemingly difficult or more difficult than what your mother or your great mother went through. It is first the responsibility, I think, of the actor, that is the person who has committed the act, and then all the other accusations that are fingers that are going to the secondary persons that have pushed the committer or the person who has committed the act to that, come to add to the fact that the person who is first of all in front is irresponsible in taking the responsibility that God has given us as people who are supposed to go and multiply. And this adds to the odd behavior that we human beings actually put forth and with respect to animals. You know, the animal kingdom is a very regulated and organized kingdom if you take time to watch them. There are things that the animals do that we humans at times we behave opposite. So what I just wish to say here is the fact that truly there are some men that are irresponsible, as the lady said, and it is obvious that with the, first of all, very difficult economic conditions, to take care of a child nowadays is very expensive. Not only expensive, but very difficult. And back in the days, we used to know that a man has to tighten his belt when children are already going to secondary school. They say, do everything to build a house before the children start going to secondary school, because it was interpreted in those days that you start spending on children when they go to secondary school. But nowadays, you start spending on a child when the day is born. The child is born from day one. And even primary school, even taking care of the child is not easy. So for a man to have gotten into a relationship with a woman and then put the child away and allow the responsibility on the lady is a very, very negative act, which I think the penal code that is being revised by Cameroon is including that type of irresponsible behavior to be penal. And I believe that if such an attitude is rendered penal, it is going to create some order. But the person who commits the act by killing a child because you cannot take care of the child is sad and difficult.
There is no reason.
There's no reason to take life because you cannot put your two hands.
There is no reason to kill the child.
To kill the child.
The child has the right to life.
That is it.
The right to life is fundamental, and so everybody, including babies, and God Himself said in His commandments, "Thou shalt not kill." Now let's continue with our discussion. What to do to ensure that our living and working environments are good and not conducive for illnesses.
Perception. First is to believe that this environment that we live in is the major cause of the illnesses that we are having, and to believe and to know that if I sacrifice time to keep my environment clean, I am preventing myself, or I'm saving the money that I'm going to spend in the hospital for treatment. To know that if I am putting my environment clean, I am sparing myself of the side effects that I'm going to take from drugs, even if I have the money to buy the drugs. To know that if I put my environment clean, I am preventing the illness that is going to come if I don't take care of myself, and the illness that I'm going to be struggling to cure can cause another illness. Because you're taking a drug, it has side effects, it can affect your liver, can affect other things. The best way to live is to live by prevention. Let's go out of this to look at an accident. When an accident occurs, even if the victims do not die, you have to take them to the hospital. You can never replace an eye, you can never replace the nose, or replace the articulations or the legs of somebody who has gone through an accident and he comes back the way he was. Meaning that the best way to save the form of a human being as he grows up is to prevent the person from having injury. If you look at that, then it means that in health, the best way to save money, the best way to stay in health, the best way to remain healthy, and the best way to guarantee the fact that you live is to prevent the things that cause the diseases. And 80% of the time, 90% of the time, the things that cause those diseases are those microbes, those little things that we don't see. And the fact that we live in a dirty environment, the mosquitoes, the cockroaches, the rats, and the other microbes that we don't touch, that we don't see, are the things that cause the disease. The water that we drink that is dirty is what is causing it. So prevention is better than cure. And if we Cameroonians can know that when a child is hospitalized, the time that you spend in the hospital with the child, the money that you're going to spend, you're going to stop your own work. Somebody will be preparing food to come and give you in the hospital for the time that the child is going to be in the hospital, and so on and so forth. If we can package that money and assume that, okay, if I'm to spend 100,000 francs or 200,000 francs taking care of health a year, let me use 20,000 francs of that money to spray my house, disinfect it, clean it, and make sure that those microbes do not exist. I'll guarantee you that if you do that twice a year, you are going to cut on your budget for the hospital, and you're going to stay healthy for as long as God wishes us to be. Because what actually cuts us down is when our health organs start having infection and they cannot longer perform because of microbes and infection that we have. So the best way to live is to prevent, identify those things that cause the disease and eliminate them, and that is our role.
Right, that is your role. That's why I'm putting this question to you now, because all of what you're saying demands expertise. It's not just done by anybody anyhow. You need to know how to go about that. So what are the services that Cameroonians, all citizens, can receive from experts like you, from companies like Venta, investment company that is involved in this sanitation business? At what cost? Are they accessible?
Yes,
the services.
Our services. We do fumigation, rodent treatment, that is elimination of mosquitoes, cockroaches, and so on. We have a service which we call a general fumigation package, which we come into a vicinity like this one, we do identification and we see that there are cockroaches and rats. There is a particular homologated products, and these companies don't just exist. This is a domain that is highly regulated by the Ministry of Public Health, and these companies or these technicians or experts that are approved to do this job have been licensed and authorized to do that. There are particular products that are being used which have been sensors validated and homologated for them to be used to do the elimination of these rodents, of these insects, of these reptiles that are disease causing in the environment. So we have a service that we do what we call 4D. We do elimination of snakes. We can prevent a snake from entering into your vicinity. We can eliminate rats. We can eliminate cockroaches and mosquitoes. And we equally do disinfection. Disinfection is meaning that if you look at this microphone that everybody comes and speaks here, each time there is a product that needs to be disinfected, or the tabletops that we use, calculators, mouse, and the desktop of a computer, even the surfaces, head taps, we need to be disinfected with particular products that eliminate what we don't see that cause disease, which we call microbes. So with us, we are saying that every Cameroonian should call us. Every Cameroonian should contact us. Every Cameroonian should get a link to us and get what we call an abonnement and disinfect your home just twice a year at a cost which is reasonable. I cannot say it's going to cost 10,000 francs or 20,000 francs a year, because it is done after a visit of a home has been done. When we see your home and see whether you have bushes around your place, you have gutters, that standing water or so on, or you have a restaurant in your place where excess food is being thrown, we do a customized quotation for you which is affordable. And when you disinfect your home twice a year, you will be preventing a lot of diseases and you live a healthy life.
And the question I want to repeat is how accessible these services in terms of cost, because when we start talking about bringing in experts, in many minds the issue of cost props up, and that is usually the barrier that may hinder many from coming to experts like you.
Well, we are not expensive. When they call me an expert, we are in our domain. We master what we are doing. The expertise is there because our technicians know exactly what they are doing, and we have a wide database of customers and individuals, companies, international organizations, embassies that are satisfied with what we do. And what we say is, just contact us and we're going to do a package for you. If you come alone in a vicinity, say in a building like this one, you are occupying the first floor, and we discover that coming to treat your first floor is not going to help you, because when we disinfect your own environment, first of all, rats don't stay in your building. They stay somewhere, and when they come to your place, they will affect you. But when we treat your own environment, you will not have rats here, but within the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, your neighbor will contaminate you. So what we do is, if the package is too expensive for an individual, we advise the customer to sensitize the neighbor, so that we do a group package which is going to reduce the price and is going to be accessible. Every Cameroonian should know that this service is not expensive for anybody to have. With a 25,000-30,000 francs, you can have your home treated, which is a 2-room apartment and so on. And then, if the environment becomes such that we need to do put some baits to eliminate the rats, and we intervene 3 times, it should be noted that when we intervene in your house, we have a guarantee of 3 months for the effectiveness of the product that we're going to put and the follow up. Within those 3 months, if you have a rat, mosquito or something, you just call us, we intervene. So it is a continuous process and a contract for 3 months. So we advise that every home, every Cameroonian should get this product on their platform, and when you treat your home 3 times a year, the price is instead going to drop. So contacting us is the best thing to do, so that we can give a customized quotation for every Cameroonian.
Right. Venlan Tazo, DK Public Hygiene and Sanitation Expert, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Babla, for inviting me. We're always available for any other information that can help a Cameroonian or save lives, as we have always been doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That will be it for today. Stay with us if you can. Bye.